Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. The ACDP posits that today we are not merely debating a budget, but affirming the constitutional imperative of a transparent, inclusive and accountable communication system between the government and the people that it serves. The government communication and information system has a critical mandate to ensure that every South African, regardless of geography or circumstance, has access to timely, accurate and empowering information. In an era marked by disinformation, misinformation, digital disruption and growing public skepticism, this mandate has never been more urgent. The ACDP recognizes that GCIS was allocated some 798.2 million for the 2025-26 financial year. This includes funding for media engagement, communication campaigns, and the digital migration of platforms like the Vuk'uzenzele. Concerns remain, however, about whether this budget adequately supports inclusive, multilingual outreach and if it counters rising misinformation. We welcome the adoption of the National Communication Strategy Framework approved by Cabinet in February 2025. This framework is a step forward in professionalizing communication across all spheres of government. However, frameworks alone are insufficient and will require close monitoring by all members of parliament and stakeholders. The ACDP further notes the constructive engagement between GCIS and the South African National Editors Forum in April this year, a long overdue dialogue that acknowledged past shortcomings, including the exclusion of journalists during key events. We commend the commitment to more inclusive, transparent, and regular media engagement. And the ACDP positions that this must become the norm and not the exception. We remain concerned, however, about the slow pace of digital transformation, and while the shift to digital-only editions for the Vuk'uzenzele is fiscally prudent, it risks excluding those without reliable internet access. The ACDP urges GCIS to accelerate its investment in community media and multilingual platforms, extending accurate information to those often overlooked. In an era where misinformation spreads faster than facts, GCIS must not merely react, it should lead. We must fund a communication system that is not only efficient, but one that is ethical, inclusive, and resilient. For the ACDP, as kingdom builders in a society where 80% of South Africans profess to be Christian, truth is not a privilege, it is a public expectation. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Tring. The next speaker is Honorable Zibi.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable members, good afternoon. Good afternoon to you, Chair of the Portfolio Committee. Chair, I want to talk about two issues that are adjacent to the work of the GCIS, but are nonetheless critical to its work. The information ecosystem has changed because of the rapid expansion of digital communication channels. Previously, the government and citizens could rely on reasonably resourced media organizations to cover parliament and national news events that inform South Africans. Despite what many may feel about the news media, the reality is that an SABC stamp on a circulating video is a form of authentication, that the information is accurate, that it is official, that it has been vetted for accuracy. This is no longer the case. Local and regional news organizations are dying at a fast rate, with national news agencies a close second. Journalists get retrenched in big numbers, with the Parliament Press Gallery being a pale shadow of what it was just 5 years ago in terms of numbers. This problem is particularly bad at a time when people need more, not less accurate information that is useful from the government, delivered on time. The budget impasse demonstrated this, revealing that most South Africans do not know how this parliament works, let alone the budget process and how it directly affects their lives. For those of us who engage in efforts to educate the public on this, it was clear from the feedback that there is an enormous gap that must be filled as soon as possible. This takes me to the problem of skillful and deliberate misinformation, which is a global phenomenon, but is particularly bad here in South Africa. It is harmful. There are serious public safety concerns when people prefer to believe a popular podcaster with a big social media following over a qualified, experienced medical expert. In this environment, people need to know where they can go for fact-checking, for accurate public interest information so they are not misled and endangered. The GCIS therefore needs to treat these platforms more seriously than being understood in the manner that most of us are as social media platforms. They own the attention economy and are literally where people live 24 hours a day. I also want to suggest, Honorable Chair, that we consider legislation and national policy where the large tech companies like Google and Meta pay a levy based on the revenues they generate in South Africa. That would be above any income taxes that they pay. This can go towards building platforms that fight disinformation and improve access to civic education, fact-checking services using AI tools, and media diversity development. Rise Mzansi will support this budget. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Zibi. The next speaker will be Honorable Matafa.
Thank you, House Chair. As we debate the budget vote today, I stand to amplify transformative pillars that will be important in shaping South Africa's broader communication landscape. These aspects revolve around empowering marginalized voices through media diversity and bridging the digital divide that continues to exclude many of our South Africans from participating meaningfully in the digital economy and ICT space. The commitment to transformation finds expression in the MDDA's 172 million allocation through the medium-term expenditure framework, which will seek to empower 66 communities with broadcast projects and 18 small commercial media initiatives. These initiatives represent our people and must be well-resourced to be effective. Our support for these initiatives directly addresses the historic injustice of the past, which were the exclusion of women, youth, and persons with disability from media ownership and content creation. The revised MAC sector code gives an element of practicality to this transformation by setting measurable targets for representation and procurement. The digital era has brought both opportunities and unprecedented threats to our democracy. While the GCIS actively engages in curbing the use of misinformation and disinformation, we agree with Honorable Zibi that more work is required in this regard. The efforts to curb this rise of misinformation will gain agency as we approach the 2026 local government election, where foreign actors and local bad faith elements will undoubtedly weaponize misinformation. Programs from the GCIS to speak to these elements must take center stage with this cycle. In order to wage an effective battle against misinformation and disinformation, the GCIS must institutionalize regular, structured ministerial briefings to ensure the public remains continuously informed, not just during crises or disasters. While emergency communications are critical, a truly transparent government engages citizens consistently, providing updates and national development initiatives. On Program 2, the content production is central to the initiatives of Program 2. The GCIS produces and disseminates content across its various platforms and products to keep South Africans informed and empowered. The essential work is funded through the Products and Platform Sub-Program under the Content Processing and Dissemination Program, which has allocated a budget of 143.5 million over the medium-term expenditure framework period. Infrastructure development project remains one of the key hindrance factors when it comes to bridging the digital divide. However, there are other factors that play a role, such as accessibility. The GCIS Digital Transformation Strategy, with its 300 hours of annual streaming content on Goza TV and other platforms, ensures that South Africans can access crucial information Honorable Shongwe. The MDDA's parallel investment in digital screens, training for 60 community projects, creates continuous programs for those who are key drivers and enablers of change. Fiscal responsibility remains paramount, as previously noted in the analysis of the 2.8 billion medium-term budget. The approach to MDDA's funding reduction demonstrates this principle by focusing on sustainability training and shared resources. We also believe in the construction in community media that can thrive beyond government subsidies. The 196.5 million rands from the Universal Service Fund levy and 126.5 million departmental transfers are developed to maximize impact. This isn't an austerity measure. It is, however, a wise investment in self-reliant community institutions. As we move forward with implementing these programs, we continue to be guided by our vision for communication as a means of liberation and empowerment. Our dedication to this initiative, which aligns with empowerment and national transformation goal, is one we aim to uphold throughout the 7th administration, and it is taking shape in the department's APPs and those entities across the board. The budget demonstrates our commitment to ensuring that South Africa's media landscape fully reflects the diversity of its people. The threats that are facing the smaller players remain significant, ranging from the 100 million community medium debt to Centec to the sophisticated disinformation networks. But the solutions that we are envisioning through this budget are equal to the task of addressing these particular shortfalls. May the spirit of Comrade Didi Mabuza rest in peace. I thank you, House Chair. The ANC support the budget.
Thank you, Honorable Matafa. The next speaker is Honorable Bodlani.
The formation of the Government of National Unity gave the GCIS a unique opportunity to move forward from the perceived stigma of being a government mouthpiece and truly becoming government communications information services. However, under this new dispensation, the GCIS has failed to adequately capture the work of new ministers and does very little to communicate on their behalf. The DA notes with great concern the slow progress of the completion of the policy document to guide government communication, the manifestation of which is the failing results of various empowerment programs offered by the GCIS. As a government lead communicator, GCIS continues to fail in being a strong institution for government outreach. This in the era of disinformation and misinformation. Minister, the GCIS is well placed to serve the nation, and they should. The establishment of Goza TV by GCIS, when the state broadcaster, the SABC, exists, speaks to the insistence of government entities to work in silos. Why has the GCIS reinvented the wheel when they could have collaborated with the SABC? The question we have as the DA is, who stands to benefit from this Goza TV? Somebody high up must be making money from this ill-thought project. Following the 2024 national and provincial elections, the GCIS spent unbudgeted millions, I beg your pardon, on the inauguration of President Ramaphosa, as if the event caught them by surprise. A kind reminder to the GCIS is that the country will be having local government elections next year, and we trust that they will budget accordingly and make meaningful strides on voter education and government messaging. In the same breath, it would make the work of GCIS more meaningful if they profiled and work with local municipalities. This is a sure way of extending their reach and improving on their low profile, especially in rural areas. Honorable Minister, no organization can perform optimally when fully funded posts remain unfilled, especially at an executive level. This is mitigated by having different acting heads every few months, which is an unsatisfactory management process. The DA calls on you, Minister, to ensure that a permanent Director General is appointed for the GCIS. The long delays have caused a leadership vacuum. Turning to the MDDA. House Chairperson, the DA appreciates the mandate of the MDDA as articulated in the MDDA Act. The need for community-based media cannot be ignored. However, the number of community radio stations and newspapers that continue to close DM are concerning. We have stations that operate while owing Centec transmission fees, compromising both their existence as well as that of Centec. Establishing community radio stations and then closing them does more harm. In the first instance, the MDDA must make an informed decision before setting up and funding new stations. DM Morolong, a better measure of the outputs of the MDDA should be the quality of radio stations and their ability to self-sustain. The MDDA should use more evidence-based research before funding more stations. In a world where newspapers have gone digital, local newspapers also need incredible support. As the MDDA has failed to understand the impact local newspapers can have on improving literacy rates. Imagine if the MDDA had collaborated with schools and children could read local news in their own languages, a huge missed opportunity. Overspending by about 400,000 on litigation and legal matters is a cause for concern. This is funds that could have been used to empower MDDA beneficiaries. The DA stands to welcome the Portfolio Committee and the recommendations that have been made. Honorable House Chairperson, the face of Parliament has changed in the 7th administration. We have done this by not having members in the Portfolio Committee who just stand there and rubber stamp the decisions as business as usual. This Portfolio Committee Chairperson stands to say, as the Democratic Alliance, I do beg your pardon, we stand to say we support the integration of the committee recommendations as stated by the committee chairperson. These recommendations are our one chance for the future of GCIS to truly become government and communication information services. As I close, Chairperson, to Honorable Delisha, where I come from, when you speak about a person who is not in the room, like you did about Minister Solima Latsi, sithi uyahleba.
Thank you. Honorable Subrath, can you go back and sit there where you were? The next speaker will be Honorable Subrath.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, let me follow on the protocol of honourable members who have come before me and greet everybody in the House, fellow South Africans. Let me also greet my wife Fatima and Asma, who have joined me here today to be part of the Parliament for the People. Let me also note, Honourable Chairperson, and my reflection on the absence of Honourable Sotole of the Inkatha Freedom Party, who would have been debating with us today. Let me recognize his absence. Chairperson, this year marks the 70th anniversary of the Freedom Charter, a pivotal milestone which, as we reflect, we cannot but marvel at the progress that we as a country have attained. The vision articulated in Kliptown in 1955, Chairperson, must find expression in the very work of the entities before this august House today. Honourable Chairperson, driving transformation requires active redress of historical injustices. Let me directly address the misinformation and the selective outrage that have characterized some opposition statements to this debate. The stance of the opposition has always centered around this budget being wasteful expenditure and, as Honourable Shongwe calls it, a propaganda budget. From the outset, this has revealed their shocking ignorance or deliberate distortion of how a developmental budget, Honourable Shongwe, and not how a propaganda budget works. At the heart of our conversation is the central role of GCIS. To those who criticize GCIS's coordinating mandate, answer the straightforward, simple question. Why should taxpayers continue to fund separate departmental communication units with duplicate budgets, with duplicate staff and contracts? The National Communication Strategic Framework is about more than just centralization of control and about departmental autonomy. At its core, Honorable Chairperson, it aims to eliminate wasteful expenditure the opposition's claim to oppose. Our commitment to strengthening government communications remains firmly focused on ensuring that our people have ongoing access to credible and centralized information. Honorable Chairperson, ultimately, all departments need to rally behind for GCIS to be fully effective and lead the industry in providing information. We must effectively utilize GCIS platforms for announcements and conveying critical information to achieve this. We also need to address, Honorable Chairperson, the role of MLOs and enhance the department's communication framework. The priority is to align these two areas with the overall goal of building a capable departmental communication framework. The next step, House Chairperson, is to establish a clear communication point and guidelines. This brings me to accountability, where criticism of internal department regulation on MLOs has been expressed and insights have been given on using Universal Service and Access Fund levy. However, House Chair, when addressing this criticism, we must remember that it pertains to an implementation shortfall, not a policy failure. Implementation is enabled by both budget availability and budget allocation. The national dialogue, House Chairperson, the national dialogue presents a strategic opportunity for all South Africans to reshape the nation's future collectively. It presents a platform to address pressing challenges ranging from inequality to social cohesion and to forge a shared vision for progress. As the custodian of government communication, Honorable Minister, GCIS must ensure that every citizen understands the dialogue's purpose, the dialogue's process, and participatory opportunities. As the African National Congress, we see the national dialogue as the modern embodiment of what the Freedom Charter envisioned when it declared that the people shall govern. Moving forward towards creating an ongoing participatory democracy, the national dialogue will continue despite other parties falling away from it, as it does not represent the views of an individual party. DA, note, it is a gathering for the people and by the people. The national dialogue will not be held ransom or used as a bargaining chip. It will never. Honorable Chairperson, we maintain that the G20's values lies not in its global stature, but in its ability to foster domestic.
Honorable Subrata, can you take a seat? Honorable Gama, what are you rising on?
We are encouraged, Chair. He must always bring his wife. He's very energized.
Honorable Gama. Honorable Gama. Honorable Gama. That's not a point of order, you know that. And honorable members, I can't control a person's passion on the subject. It's not my job. What's that hand for?
Chair, I rise on Rule 12. Please protect our eardrums.
Oh, that's a frivolous point of order. Honorable Subrata, can you proceed?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, we maintain that the G20's values lies not in its global stature, but in its ability to foster domestic unity and national pride when effectively communicated. The ANC expects, Honorable Minister, that the GCIS to leverage its provincial networks and partnerships to make the G20 resonate as a people's project, not as a gathering of select individuals. The G20 presidency must instill a sense of pride in our people, and they should be able to resonate with its proceedings. As the ANC, we stand firm in supporting the budget vote. Still, our backing reflects clear and actionable recommendations to ensure that the entities deliver maximum impact for the people of South Africa. The committee's recommendations serve as a roadmap for accountability and measurable outcomes that will determine the success of the entities over the medium-term expenditure framework. Let me respond. I think I've adequately responded to Honorable Shongwe that I've educated the House that this is not a propaganda budget. This is a developmental budget. Honorable Velakazi, you speak about a government that cannot communicate, cannot govern. Perhaps I will respond by saying that a party that does not and cannot participate in the national dialogue should also not be governing. So maybe you will announce whether you will be contesting the IGE 2026. Finally, Honorable Delisha, I saw you leaving the House. I thought perhaps you went to bring the correct speech for this year because the Starlink regulation sits in the next debate of DCDT, not in this debate. The ANC is aligned that anybody who wants to enter the telecom sector must comply and come through the front door, not through the back door, and the ANC supports the vote. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Honorable Mshongo, your hand is up.
Thank you, Chair. We want to take this opportunity to commend you by choosing to ignore and not calling out the parties that we have noticed that they have nothing to contribute towards this process
Thank
of
you,
budget vote.
Honorable
Thank you
Mshongo.
for not wasting
Thank
South
you,
Africans'
Honorable
time by
Mshongo.
just critiquing those parties.
Honorable Mshongo, thank you. Honorable Shongwe, which point are you rising on? Because Rule 12.
Yes, Chair.
Rule 12 does not speak about
Yes,
what
Chair,
you spoke
be
about.
patient. I'm new, Chair, in the Parliament. I just want to know, Chair, is it parliamentary that the GNU this side clap hands and the other GNU doesn't clap hands? Is it parliamentary?
The next and last speaker is the Honorable the Minister.